What is going on, guys? Welcome to episode 19 of the Crypto Club podcast. We are here with Gons and Dennis on this beautiful Friday afternoon.
Everybody, excited to be back.
Hello, guys. We are excited. We've got some good stories for this week.
Yeah, define good.
Depends.
Right.
Definitely newsworthy.
Yeah, starting off on a good note here. If you've been paying attention at all, the markets in general have rallied very much. Crypto in particular, I think we're up about 25% from the previous shelf that we were at. Really kind of just lifting off of that 17K level straight up to 21.4, 21.5 where we're at now. We can see ETH is just below 1,600, which is pretty nuts considering we were down at 1,200 for quite a while, even hitting a double bottom off of 1070 around there. Looking pretty good, and I think the most noteworthy thing here is we are holding above this 200 MA very well. We haven't seen any breaks above the 200 MA since April of 2022. Of course, you can see we did reject off of there, dumped pretty hard. But, it looks like we're holding it rather well here, and we can also see it starting to curve up. So, still a lot of recession talks. Google just laid off 12,000 employees. So, economically things are still unclear, but the charts are, telling us a different story here, at least in the short term. And we will see how that plays out. Same thing on Bitcoin, holding above that 200 MA, not quite curving up as much as it is on ETH, but definitely good to see.
Definitely. Another noteworthy thing is there was kind of like a big scare the other day, which also we live streamed it, so make sure you guys have your notifications on. It was related to the Department of Justice. We're actually going to talk about it a little bit in one of the upcoming stories. But it was kind of like a panic scare for the market, and it's very noteworthy that that took us to a little bit above 20K on Bitcoin and 15K on ETH. And we held those levels even during that scare. And we're bouncing right back up, back to ETH almost at 1,600 and Bitcoin almost at 21.5. So it looks like we're really holding strong in this area for now. Time will tell, of course, but yeah, everything's looking pretty bullish at the moment.
Yeah, I would agree. You can see that volatility from that scare that we had right here, peaking at 21.6, just about, dropping all the way down to 20,400. So breaching the highs and lows of this whole range within 3 hours of candlesticks. So nothing new as far as crypto volatility. Anywho, let's get on with our first story here. So crypto lender Genesis files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The firm has estimated liabilities of $1 billion to $10 billion and assets in the same range, according to the January 19th filing. Earlier reports claimed the company had been considering filing for bankruptcy protection if it was unable to raise capital to stem its liquidity crisis. In a January 19th press release, Genesis said it had been engaged in discussions with its advisors to its creditors and corporate parent Digital Currency Group, DGC, to evaluate the most effective path to preserve assets and move the business forward. The company's Chapter 11 plan sees it contemplating a dual-track process, pursuing a sale, capital raise, and or equitization transaction that would apparently enable the business to emerge under new ownership. The derivatives, spot trading, broker-dealer, and custody businesses of Genesis are not part of the Chapter 11 proceedings and will continue operations according to the firm. It is also claimed to have more than $150 million in cash on hand that it believes will provide ample liquidity to support its ongoing business operations and facilitate the restructuring process. Yeah, Genesis was a rather large exchange. I also want to say it's like one of the most regulatorily compliant crypto exchanges. And it's kind of weird seeing an exchange, file for bankruptcy as things are kind of starting to look a little better in the markets. But, there's a lot of collateral damages in these cases.
For me, what's weird here is the 1 to 10 billion range. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah, yeah.
swing, and personally, just sounds a little bit interesting. Maybe there's some things that still are going to be uncovered as they don't know the total damages. It seems pretty sketchy to me, but yeah, wanted to hear your thoughts, guys.
Yeah, I mean,
So I feel like the 1 to 10 range is simply just because of the volatility, and they probably hold so many like assets, similar to FTX's case where they were holding so much of Solana, that it's probably very difficult to liquidate all those assets if they're held in crypto, especially like altcoins that have worse like liquidity ratios. And so that 1 to 10 billion range might just be like an estimate depending on how much they can like feasibly sell off.
yeah, that's what I was going to point out. There's a lot of sort of smaller tokens that these exchanges tend to hold. Those lower liquidity tokens, often you're just not able to sell huge holdings for their true market valuation, because you'll just have such an impact on the market price. But 1 to 10 billion is a crazy range. I think even in that case of low liquidity tokens, should be a little more predictable than that.
Yeah, it just depends, right? Like, for example, if it's like, let's say they're holding a lot of Solana, then they're in deep trouble because we also know that FTX holds a majority of Solana. And so if FTX, is filing bankruptcy and is going through this, current legal process, they're going to have to liquidate that Solana to, make investors whole. And so that would greatly impact their holdings, if it's any part of that 1 to 10 billion. So it just depends what tokens they're holding, which they know on their back end. I don't think this article discusses it, but it's surely just some volatile asset that they probably can't liquidate completely.
Yeah, there's also going to be some other companies and blockchain platforms that are going to be exposed to Genesis. So we'll see how the collateral damage of this plays out. Kind of get on to our next story here that talks about this a little bit more. So it's saying Genesis owes over 3.5 billion to the top 50 creditors. So Genesis has over 100,000 creditors among the three of its companies that declared bankruptcy. Among its creditors are names that would be familiar to observers of the crypto industry. Genesis owes Gemini Trust Company $766 million, trading firm Cumberland DRW $18.7 million, and crypto fund Marana $151.5 million. There's some other things in here like Moon Alpha Finance for $150 million and VanEck New Finance Income Fund for $53 million. There are also a number of creditors that have been redacted from the filing to the bankruptcy court in New York. An unknown creditor is owed $462 million. If you've got $462 million in one exchange, I don't know. I mean,
That's nuts.
yeah.
You have to be like have $1 billion portfolio to even, and that even then it doesn't make sense. That's just huge. That's really poor risk management.
It's going to be a kind of getting kind of both the last story and this one. It's just going to be interesting to see how other exchanges learn from these kind of mistakes and these issues that keep coming up. I mean, we've seen from FTX to now Genesis to some of these other organizations not being able to kind of sustain their business model. So it's going to be interesting to see how people pivot and create this kind of new version of how exchanges should operate.
Right. I think, this year has definitely been, a learning experience as far as case studies for exchanges, right? And it's been put on blast, all of these exchanges that are facing these problems and running into, legal issues. It's really been breaching into mainstream news. And I think, that's a very good thing for the future of crypto. It really puts kind of that knowledge that's more engineered for the savvy trader, like self-custody, things like that. It kind of puts that knowledge at the forefront of people that could be getting into crypto's minds.
I 100% agree. I think, yes, obviously it sucks and it's painful for those people that lost money or got their kind of rug pulled under them, but all these experiences lead to a better kind of community and ecosystem. We learn off each other, and this kind of field is so nascent right now that I feel like all these bigger organizations are doing mistakes that others are trying to kind of avoid, or create new ways for new business models to kind of make this stuff work, because it's tough to see all these companies go bankrupt. I'm sure this is affecting a lot of jobs, lots of people's livelihoods, and yeah.
100%. We'll go on with our next story here. So this is talking about the worst influencer and celebrity NFT cash grabs of 2022. I'm sure almost all of you guys have heard of Logan Paul's, Crypto Zoo. There's tons of celebrities that have just, defrauded their audience, grifted their fans for money with NFTs, right? These people feel like it's an easy way to make money, which to an extent it is. But, at the same time, it's important to question the moral aspects of that. So starting off the list here, we got Tai Lopez with the Original Garage Social Club. I'm sure all of you have seen the old ad on YouTube with Tai Lopez. He actually bought Radio Shack recently, and then Radio Shack launched a token, I believe.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard they were launching a token. Haven't heard anything since. It's probably not doing too hot.
They're also a swap. That's their utility.
Nice. Along with the 1,000 other swaps out there. So yeah, right here we have a tweet from CoffeeZilla saying Tai Lopez is selling an NFT that gives you the chance to win $10,000 if you beat him at one-on-one basketball. The price is $50,000. Doesn't sound like too good of a deal to me. Pay $50,000 to play Tai Lopez one-on-one and maybe win $10,000.
I mean,
stonks.
Yeah,
it's tough. I feel like a lot of these projects, they see all these other projects giving a lot of utility, and so they're trying to provide some kind of utility to their NFTs to pump the price, but obviously they need a little bit of more research
Right.
into how to properly run an NFT project.
And they're just in it for the wrong reasons. Like you said, they want a little bit of utility to pump the price. They're not really wanting to just build cool things that will truly, are innovative and propel the ecosystem forward.
The issue is it's not utility. It's like pseudo utility, because to be quite frank, like NFTs at the moment don't really have a real world or practical utility. And so they're basically just coming up with ideas on how to justify having an NFT collection, right? And you end up with this kind of stuff where it's just, money grabs for whoever is deploying these.
100%.
I agree, but I still think that there's still utilities that people can leverage from NFTs. Like the technology, like Evan said, I don't think people are using it for the right reasons, and not for the technology, rather for a cash grab. So there are still some projects that I won't show, but there is some utility in a lot of NFT projects that just some of these influencers, their goal is to make cash quick, and so they see an opportunity and they go for it.
Right.
And then this is the result.
Yeah, and it never works out well. It's a very short-sighted mindset. But getting on with the list here, we have the Donald Trump digital trading cards, which actually did very well off of Mint. I'm not sure where they're at right now. And it's like if you buy 40 of them or 45 or something, you can go attend a dinner with Donald Trump in Florida, allegedly. We'll see how that actually pans out. There was 45,000 supply of these. They sold out, raising a total of $4.5 million. The initial sales. We've also, of course, got Floyd Mayweather, who actually was barred from talking about cryptocurrencies for maybe, it was like 1 to 3 years. Can't quite remember. Several years ago, because of him doing this previously. But I mean, he has launched multiple NFT projects that have gone to zero, and continuously does it. For someone who's named Floyd Money Mayweather, he sure seems to be in some desperate need of money.
He sure likes money.
He does.
It'd be interesting how, like legally and what that process will look like, especially for these not necessarily clear rug pulls, but like projects that keep going to zero. It's just like it can raise some red flags and some SEC looking into some of these projects and where the assets are being allocated post mint.
Right. Yeah, and I believe, like I said, Floyd Mayweather has already been charged by the SEC several years ago, and he was barred for talking about securities for X amount of years. But it seems like he's back at it. And then, of course, we have Lana Rhodes, the crypto sis. And Lana Rhodes got a ton of hate for this, rightfully so, as Rhodes reportedly pocketed $1.5 million from the sales, then promptly withdrew the funds from her Ethereum wallet before walking away from the project altogether, stating her community was too negative. Weird how that works, huh?
That's such an easy scapegoat.
Yeah.
We actually see that pretty often in the DeFi world as well. We'll have these repeat serial ruggers come in and deploy tokens and really hype them up, and then not that Lana Rhodes did this, and maybe this was kind of like an idea that sparked, because I know a couple of serial ruggers in the DeFi space who consistently do this, and they'll basically just do nothing for the community until the community turns like sour, obviously, because it's like, hey, we believed in your project and you're not doing anything for us. Of course, I'm going to be upset and a little bit toxic. But these ruggers in the DeFi space rely on that. So then they can say later on, like, oh, well, the community gave up, so I just left. But in reality, they're the ones that caused that in the first place.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. We'll see, how this plays out in a legal way. I think a lot of people are in for a fun surprise. Let's go on with our last story here, talking about Bizlato. This was really weird. This is the development that we covered live on our YouTube channel. I believe it was Tuesday or Wednesday. The United States government, I forget which department it was, announced that they were holding an emergency press conference on cryptocurrency developments. And it was really weird because it, was like announced the same day that they were making the announcement, and there was also several other departments joining them. I believe it was like the FBI, some of the SEC, so on and so forth. And so everyone is very concerned, just bringing back this Bitcoin chart very quickly. Saw a lot of volatility in crypto just from the announcement alone.
It dropped 4% in a
Yeah.
couple hours from that initial announcement.
And then once they actually made the announcement, it was a big nothing burger. I mean, we've got, FTX, massive exchange, billions of dollars at play here. And Bizlato is a exchange that helps cyber criminals. So, definitely good that they announced they had apprehended the CEO and they've taken down the exchange. But, I mean, they've done $700 million in volume for illicit services, allegedly, which, once again, great thing that it's taken down. However, very peculiar show put on by the government to announce something like this that is rather small in comparison to everything that is currently going on.
Yeah, they took down a really small fish in a big pond. But the idea behind it was to send a message to the rest of the players in the space who are doing these things, and allowing these cyber criminals to launder money and stuff like that. It was just a big show to get as many eyes on it as possible to send that message, and they made it very clear that was their goal. Again, it's still good that they did it. I don't think it needed to be like this whole cryptic, oh, what is the government gonna do with crypto? Like, I don't think it needed to go to that extreme, but it did work as far as getting their message across to, their target audience. For the rest of us, it was definitely just a big nothing burger, though.
Yeah, I would say I completely agree with you, Guns. I think this was directed towards other scammers, and that they're developing the right tools and partnering with the right people to find future problems within exchanges and within illicit legal sites and transfer of money. So I feel like it's overall just a quick message coming into 2023 that they're coming after folks that are doing kind of not fair business within the blockchain space, essentially.
Right.
I think obviously they shared it very almost like create panic, but I think that panic allowed them to get a lot more coverage. I saw a bunch of influencers covering it. I saw people talking about it a lot. And so honestly, it was a tactic to spread the message a lot faster. I wish they didn't do it because it did create a little bit of larger volatility than normal. But yeah, I think that was their whole entire kind of plan.
For sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I think that is going to wrap up this week's Crypto Club. It's never a boring time in the crypto markets. However, this week was one of the more calmer weeks. We saw a nice increase in prices across the board. Genesis has filed for bankruptcy, but we haven't had anything absolutely earth-shattering, which is refreshing, as the last few months have just been difficulty after difficulty, setback after setback. Seems like it may be time for things to start moving forward. And yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. Make sure you guys check out the description, join the CoinScan community. We've got some extremely exciting things coming up mid-February, and we'll be releasing some videos on some of that stuff. And yeah, look forward to seeing you guys next week.